We make a very small number of awards of honorary doctorates each year to people who have made special contributions to our world, special contributions to the societies in which they live. You can read a little bit about Dato Anthony Cooper's accomplishments in your graduation programme. I'm going to invite now Professor Peter Mitchell to tell you more about why Dato Anthony Cooper is having this degree conferred upon him today.
Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honour and pleasure to introduce such an outstanding individual. Dato Anthony Cooper, in some sense, belongs to Malaysia, a great nation that has always qualified as his home. He was born in Singapore in 1939, and his military father was based in Malaya. As Singapore fell to the Japanese in World War II, Dato Cooper, then a young child, was evacuated to Sussex, England, where he lived with grandparents until adulthood. Following occupation by the Japanese army, Dato Cooper's father was taken prisoner and enlisted to work on the Nottingham Railway. Sadly, his father did not survive the harsh experience. When Dato Cooper was aged 6, his mother married a volunteer soldier, a survivor of the Railway project, a marriage that lasted more than 60 years. Dato Cooper's stepfather, Richard Middleton Smith, a lifelong role model for him, resumed work in the Malayan civil service after the war ended. He had a distinguished career that included setting up the Singapore Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau in 1952, which still operates to this day. Hence, Dato Cooper and his family had a long and personal attachment to Malaysia. Dato Cooper left school at the age of 18 and he trained to be an accountant. While learning his profession, he spent 8 months in Montreal, Canada. After completing training at the age of 25, he was sent by his company to work in Iran. Having a sense of adventure, he chose not to fly, but to drive all the way in a minivan. The route passed through Yugoslavia, Greece, Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and finally to Iran. In 1970, Dato Cooper was delighted to have the opportunity to work at Price-Waterhouse in the place where he was born, Singapore. Once again, he chose to drive. He set off from London in an Austin Maxi, crossed the channel through France, Yugoslavia, Greece, Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, through India to Madras, where he took the car by boat to Singapore. In 1971, at the young age of 31, he became a partner in Price-Waterhouse Malaysia in Singapore, and from 1982 to 85, served as senior partner and board member for Price-Waterhouse Asia Pacific. During this period, the Kuala Lumpur Price-Waterhouse office expanded rapidly and became the company's 6th largest in the world. In the following decade, from 1986 to 1996, he became Group Managing Director of Wellington Underwriting Holdings. Dato Cooper is a Fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, given the letters FCA at his name. He is also a Fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, Manufacturers and Commerce, given the letters FRSA at his name. In 2011, he was given an Honorary Dattokship from Negeri Sembilan. Dato Cooper has held a large number of esteemed positions, several of which testify to his compassion for the well-being of young people, especially students. Specifically, he served as the non-executive director of Kent Ambulance Trust and chairman of the audit committee. He was financial consultant and board member of the Samaritan Singapore, chairman of Students' Care Service and governor of the Alice Smith School Association. He was also governor of St Leonard's Mayfield School and served as chairman of governors of Cranbrook School, where he remains a trustee. More recently, from 2001 to 2011, he served as Honorary Secretary of the British Malaysia Society. He is currently a member of the Management Advisory Group and the Education and Culture Committee. Other roles have included council membership of the Royal Society for Asian Affairs,
and acting as a trustee of the Lloyd's Charity Trust, which sponsored the Parent International Project. Dato Cooper played an active role in this project, spending a week in Sarajevo in the late 1990s to visit schools in order to promote a drama in education initiative. In the year 2000, Dato Cooper established the Tinggi Foundation in collaboration with Peter Chow, one of the partners in Price-Waterhouse. He sourced and contributed significant funding to this charitable organisation, which received official approval in 2003 as a multiracial educational yayasan. Since this time, the foundation has awarded approximately 70 scholarships, mainly for students at the University of Malaya and the University of Nottingham, Malaysia campus. Currently, there is provision for 4 scholarships each year across the various faculties at UNMC, and 4 scholarships each year in English at the University of Malaya. In cooperation with the National Autism Society of Malaysia and also the University of Nottingham, Malaysia campus, the Tinggi Foundation underwrote a programme of training for clinicians in Malaysia to diagnose autism according to international techniques and standards. The internationally recognised way of diagnosing autism involves a system called the Autism Diagnostic Observation Schedule. The funding from the Tinggi Foundation allowed this system to be purchased for use by clinicians in Malaysia, and the funding also paid clinicians to be trained by Dr. Susan Reese from the University of Michigan in the USA, one of the key scientists who developed the diagnostic system, who duly visited Malaysia in 2011 to conduct the training in person. This would not have been possible without the help and support of the Tinggi Foundation. Since its establishment in 2010, Dato Cooper has been serving as the international advisor of the Malaysian think tank Institute for Democracy and Economic Affairs, generally known by the acronym IDEAS. Thanks to Dato Cooper's involvement, this think tank was awarded seed funding to open the IDEAS Autism Centre, a special school located in Kuala Lumpur for children with autism. His most supportive wife, Andrea Deola, is governor of the centre. The school opened last year and will undoubtedly be of considerable benefit to the children and their families who welcome this long-awaited special educational service. In his spare time, Dato Cooper still has energy to play tennis and golf to a respectable standard. His other passion is theatre, and in pursuit of this interest he joined the Singapore Stage Club. His amateur acting career reached a pinnacle when he played an extra in a nightclub scene in Singapore. The film went on to win an award at the Venice Film Festival, but having some risque content, was subsequently banned in Singapore itself. As an accountant, Dato Cooper performed some duties for 20th Century Fox and was involved in the financial auditing of the 1960s movie called Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines. In summary, Dato Cooper's life is marked by notable achievements and great acts of charity. His work for Price-Waterhouse helped to build capacity and skills in Malaysia in the financial sector. A book celebrating 90 years of Price-Waterhouse in Singapore and Malaysia offers the following, I quote: as staff partner, Cooper introduced formal training courses and graduate recruitment from local universities, as well as Singaporeans and Malaysians who had qualified in the UK, thus increasing the proportion of locally qualified staff in the firm, end quote. Having been highly successful in the world of business and commerce, Dato Cooper yearned to return something to the benefit of society. His charitable activities have certainly made a difference to the lives of young people. His efforts have allowed high-quality students to study at top universities like Nottingham through the Tinggi Scholarship Scheme. His good work has also led to practical support for children with disorders such as autism. In addition to all this, Dato Cooper has served as a distinguished Honorary Secretary to the British Malaysian Society. Vice-Chancellor, to you and to the whole congregation, I present Dato Anthony Cooper as eminently worthy to receive the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
By the authority of the University of Nottingham vested in my office, I give you the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Many congratulations.
Pro-Vice-Chancellors, Senior Officers of the University, graduates, distinguished guests and friends. A letter from you, Vice-Chancellor, was given to me by my wife on Christmas Day last year, and it gave me quite a shock. But it was a very pleasant shock to read that the University of Nottingham was planning to give me this prestigious award. You will appreciate my shock more when you hear that at just 17, I applied to 2 of Britain's top universities and was rejected by both. However, I was quickly accepted by the University of Life, and 56 years later, I finally graduate. I was asked by Professor Wiley not to say this because I realise that all of you here have spent a fortune on your children and other relatives and friends, on the, not only today, of course, all the graduates, or postgraduates, they not only have their basic degree, which I never had, and I admire them for that, but also doctorates and masters, and I admire them even more for that. Vice-Chancellor, I thank most sincerely you and your colleagues in Nottingham and here on the Malaysian campus for admitting me to the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws, and it is with considerable pride that I accept. Thank you, sir. Receiving this significant honour is a humbling experience, and even more so after hearing Professor Peter Mitchell's generous oratory. Thank you very much, Professor Mitchell. The award encourages me to further explore ways in which education, in all its manifestations, can help the deserving and needy. It is particularly gratifying to realise that from now on, I will be able to call Nottingham my university, a truly great research-based international university. I have followed the development of this campus since its early days, when Professor Sir Colin Campbell, the predecessor of Professor David Greenaway, outlined the plans at a talk he gave to the British Malaysian Society in London. He gave another talk after the university had been opened. By that time, I had been able to see at first hand this impressive institution completed and in operation. This was due to the dedication and efforts of many people, both here in Malaysia and in Nottingham, not least those of the current Provost, Professor Christine Enyu. In considering what to say today, I have turned to the core values of the boarding school I attended while my stepfather was serving in the Malayan civil service. Wellington College at the time was regarded as a military school, having been founded in memory of the Duke of Wellington. So one of its key values was courage. The others were trust, integrity, respect, kindness, and responsibility. Unfortunately today, in many countries, trust and integrity are in short supply, but are values which are needed now more than ever. I would commend them to you in whatever you decide to do. After practicing as a public accountant in Malaysia, and then working in the London insurance market, I was fortunate to be able to embark on a third career. Part of this is Malaysia-based, and much of it is related to education. In recent years, I have been inspired by my wife, Andrea Mayola, a teacher who now works and is involved with 4 separate schools in Malaysia. We also involve ourselves in the Tinggi Foundation, which you've heard about earlier, which Peter Chow, a partner in Pricewaterhouse, and I founded more than 10 years ago. Over the past few years, Tingey has had strong support from Professor Ian Pashby, the recently retired provost, who I'm sure all of you know. My association with another organisation, also referred to earlier, has given me much satisfaction. The Institute for Democracy and Economic Affairs was originally founded by 3 talented young Malaysians working in England as the Malaysia think tank London. Indeed, one of them is a distinguished Nottingham law graduate who should have been here today, but I had a phone call earlier. He is so distinguished that he was on his driving here this morning when he was summoned by the Chief Minister of Johor on an emergency, and so had to turn back, but sends his regrets. Ideas, the name by which the Institute is known, has initiated and supported a number of education projects. But more importantly, the ideas and policies it is putting forward are starting to be taken seriously by the government. Internationally, Ideas has been recognised as the 5th best new think tank in the world last year in 2012, and the best in Asia. Apart from Juan Ferdas, the Nottingham law graduate, I'm delighted that all the Tingey governors and the 3 founders of Ideas are able to be present today. Why do I put so much emphasis on education? Because my message is that no matter how you have come to be here, and from whichever country, very few people in the world have the opportunity to attend university, and even fewer to complete their masters or doctorates. I was talking to Professor Wiley earlier, and we were trying to work out what percentage of the world population actually attends university today, or has attended university. And I think we came to the conclusion it was probably as little as 1 or 2%. Although I appreciate in countries like Malaysia and other countries the percentage is much higher. When you graduate, and you all have graduated, bear this in mind, how privileged you are. Professor Enyu referred to this earlier, and do make sure that you make a difference. Use your education for your own benefit, but also use it to benefit others, while always maintaining the core values I referred to earlier, particularly integrity and trust. Finally, and I must apologise for leaving this to the end, I would like to extend my personal congratulations to each one of you here today, and to wish you every success in the future. Thank you for being such a receptive audience.